If your business has big goals, you need more than just another vendor. You need a true partner who cares about your deal as much as you do. At PropLogix, we provide time-saving due diligence services from title searches to HOA research, lien searches, and more. Our team will go out of their way to ensure you're supported, and our reports are backed by our Six Sigma quality assurance approach. PropLogix, getting you to the closing table with confidence. A new episode of Title Talks starts now. Today's guest is no stranger to our State of the Title Industry report. Diane Tomb is the CEO of the American Land Title Association and has sat on a panel to discuss results in years past. Today, we talk about the biggest issues facing title agents, from the economy to unregulated title insurance alternatives to the rise in fraud, and explore ways that you can get involved to protect our industry and our shared goal of protecting homeowners. This episode is part 3 in our series centered around the 2023 State of the Title Industry Survey and Report. To make sure you catch them all, please subscribe where you listen to podcasts, and maybe even drop us a quick review if you have a moment. It would really help us out. Also, if you haven't already downloaded your copy of this year's report, you can head to stateoftitle.com and grab yours. I'm Lindsay Gordon, and this is Title Talks. Now to my interview with Diane. Thank you so much for joining us today, Diane.
Oh, Lindsay, I'm so excited to be back.
We're talking about the state of the title industry, the PropLogix survey that we do every year. This year we surveyed, I think it was 429 people from across the industry, just to kind of get an understanding of where their challenges lie, how this year has treated them, and what they're kind of looking ahead to for 2024. So I wanted to start. We're coming off the heels of the American Land Title Association's annual conference, Alta 1, and because this year we all know has been pretty tough for title agencies and title professionals, I wanted to kind of get a sense of what the conference was like and what are some of the main themes that you feel like were prevalent.
Right. Well, I just want to say thanks to PropLogix, Lindsay, for the work that you do for our industry, because I do think that this report is really important. I know that there's a lot going on, and so again, thank you guys for playing such a role within the industry for that. And yes, we did just come back from Alta 1, as you know, which is our annual conference. It's the largest gathering of all folks within our industry. And particularly after this year, which, as you know, from the economy was extraordinarily challenging. And we also have had a lot of regulatory threats at the national level, and it's at the state level, some challenges as well. That coming together, we had over 1,000 title insurance professionals, which was great because we know how challenging it is, and we know that everybody's trying to cut costs and others, but I think coming together was really helpful for all of us. And the themes, as you talked about, were really important. Our overall theme was protect, mission protect, which, as you know, is what title insurance does. It protects our consumers, right, for the largest asset that they own. But in addition to that, there were so many other things we were trying to protect. The fact that, our product is the best one for individuals, and making sure that people understand that, as well as just, there are lots of other issues that our industry takes the leadership on to address that don't directly affect title insurance, but do directly affect our consumers and protecting them. Things like entrapment and fraud and other issues that everybody comes together to address, not because it's our job, but because it's the right thing to do.
Was the economy like a big focus?
Yes, for sure. You could tell that everybody is feeling it. I think we all know that, many of us were hoping it wouldn't last as long as it did. But I think one of the things that we really is telling about our industry as a whole is how resilient we are. Many of the professionals have been through downturns before, since our industry is very cyclical, but not everybody. So I think many folks were sharing their experiences. And, one of the roles we try to play throughout this year and will continue through next year is to help folks guide them through these tough times. What are different things they can be doing, new ways to marketing themselves, how can they gain some new skills, what type of things Alta can provide them to help them sharpen those skills and making networking opportunities. So I do believe that having 1,000 people there was a really great number, but I think a lot of it had to do with folks were really committed to their business and finding new ways to get through these challenging times.
Yeah, I spoke to Deb Grace, who works over at AccuTitle. I know she's really involved in a lot of committees. She said one of the cool things she feels like she's seen is just a lot of creativity. People kind of, one, looking for maybe different revenue avenues or like different ways of doing the same thing, and that like just kind of restriction and not having as much available to you has caused a lot of people to have to think of new ways of doing things. So I think
Right.
that's really cool.
Yeah, no, Deb is a perfect example of, one of our Alta leaders. We have folks across the board who just step up and share their expertise. And again, particularly during these tough times. And believe it or not, we had a couple hundred first-time attendees, people
Yeah.
new to the industry as well. And we have a whole group of Alta members who are ambassadors that help facilitate. They sort of adopt these new members, make sure that they meet the right people, know how to get connected at this, at Alta One, but also throughout the next year in terms of getting involved in committees. Because as you know, getting folks involved early on, and it's a little intimidating to show up for the first time, particularly if you're new to an industry or you haven't been at one of these Alta One events, because everybody does really know each other, and relationships are so very important in our industry. So we're very fortunate to have folks like Deb and others who really do welcome the new folks into the industry, particularly in these challenging times.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a question that we had asked on the State of the Industry survey. We asked title professionals about their biggest concerns when it comes to the future of their title business. And it's not surprising that most people, 66%, that their biggest concern was the economy and interest rates, which makes a lot of sense. Um, the next concern was inventory. Obviously, housing inventory is continuing to be an issue, and it probably will be for a while. And then the third was unregulated. Sorry, I'm going to start that again. Unregulated title insurance alternatives. In the industry, we don't have any control really over the economy or inventory in our role. Is the same true for unregulated title insurance alternatives? Like, is there, things that we could be doing, to help make sure that that isn't a challenge that we have to worry about?
Right, absolutely, Lindsay. You're absolutely correct. Unfortunately, we don't have any control over the economy. We do have control how we react to it, right? And I do think a couple of our speakers helped people, understand how you can sort of help yourself get through these tough times, which some of them were our members, some of them were outside speakers that came in. So I'm hoping that folks got a lot out of that piece of it. And then to your point, the actual inventory piece. As an organization and as the industry representative for our industry, we do work with a lot of third-party groups to address the affordability issue because we do think that that's really important piece. We're working in with the Mortgage Bankers Association with their convergence to help sort of identify ways to untangle some of these title in cities like Philadelphia. We do a lot of work on end traps, which are these predatory agreements that are targeted towards seniors. We partnered with the AARP. So again, these aren't things that we're required to do for our industry. It's just, who we are to go above and beyond to protect our consumers. So that's really important. But yes, you're right. The unregulated title insurance products are something we can do something about. And I'm really proud the way our industry has stepped up this year to sort of address this at the national level. As you may recall, it was actually in 2022 is when Fannie Mae had no longer required title insurance as part of their seller guide, and they began accepting, in limited circumstances, attorney opinion letters. So we really took it upon ourselves to educate not just the lenders, but really the regulators and others, how this could be very problematic for the particular audience they were trying to help. Providing a product that has less coverage, and there was absolutely no clear information that it was even going to cost less, could be very problematic for first-time home buyers. So we were successful in sort of educating, and at this point, the attorney opinion letters have not been widely adopted, but we're going to continue to focus on that and make sure the regulators and others understand the importance of making sure people understand that that is not the best product for first-time home buyers, the folks that they're trying to encourage to get home ownership. The other thing that happened earlier this year was we became aware of a title waiver program that Fannie Mae was looking into as a potential option. And it was very clear to us that that was something that, one, in this case, Fannie Mae was not really in a position and was not really created to be someone who would self-insure those loans. So we had a very strong education campaign, making sure folks on Capitol Hill and others and our members really stepped up during our advocacy summit. We had over 200 meetings in May to educate and to make sure people are aware of, one, the value of title insurance and what we do, and then also how, again, this would not be helping these first-time home buyers by self-insuring through the GSEs, and they weren't really regulated to be able to do that. So we were successful in making sure that that program did not move forward, and I think that says a lot for our industry's engagement, how people really took it upon themselves to educate their local, state, and federal regulators, and the response that we received. And I'm really, really proud to be able to say right now that as a result of our education and advocacy, that there is a piece of legislation that's been introduced to address that. And again, that would not have happened without the engagement of our members at all different levels. The legislation is called the Protecting America's Property Rights Act. It was introduced in the Senate in August, and then it was just introduced the week before we were meeting at Alta One on the House side in a bipartisan approach. So this is a very important piece of legislation that we want to continue to garner support for on both sides of the aisle.
I think one thing that came up a lot, and it kind of correlates to what we ask about in our survey, it's like, during the course of issuing a title policy, a lot of research is done and a lot of issues are discovered, that may not necessarily be discovered or cured or cleared in the, during the course of, an attorney opinion letter. But there's a lot of things that might kind of pass on from one owner to another that get cleared up all the time during the course of a title agent's, day to day as they're preparing for closing and preparing to issue that policy. I think the stat was, we ask people how often they run into issues with mortgage satisfactions or lien release recordings. I think it's like upwards of 80% have run across some sort of issue in the last 12 months. So it's really common to find problems that need to be fixed. So that's why it's so important that title agents are doing this job. They're in that work, day to day, and clearing up issues that a lot of people are never really aware of, that don't become legacy issues for homeowners. So.
No, Lindsay, you are so right. That's the really important piece that I think most people don't understand about our industry. And we've really had to do a good job educating them, is all the curative work that our industry does up front. And that's why our claims are so low. So we always hear from our critics, oh, your claims are so low, why people don't really need title insurance. No, it's the complete opposite. We're very proud of that because of all the work that we do. And a lot of it doesn't show up when they do search, just sort of mass searches and those types of things. So One of the things that we did this year for the first time, and we plan to do it on a more regular basis, and we talked about this at Alta One, and we will be releasing our research as a loss claim study. This study will represent about 72% of our industry's loss claims, that talks about all of the things that don't show up when you're just doing a regular search. And we plan to do this more regular so we can demonstrate. And as you know, a lot of it's the costs related to fraud and some of the other issues that pop up that people that don't get accounted for. And to your point, that's really what makes our industry so unique, is that we avoid all these things on the front end so people don't end up having to deal with it on the back end. And that's something as an industry we need to do a better job of demonstrating. And now that we will have this research, we'll be able to do that. And the work that you all are doing is very valuable.
Yeah. I mean, I think about like a lot of what we do like lien searches and HOA research, and a lot of that is like pre-recording. There's a lot of issues that get discovered ahead of time. So I think that is also a really important thing,
Yeah,
to
and we're
highlight.
trying to capture that so we can demonstrate to people the real value in that.
Absolutely. So cool. So, changing gears a little bit, there's been a lot of buzz around regulatory oversight ramping up. Is this something that title agents should be preparing for, and what's Alta's take on this?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's happening in everywhere. I mean, it's not just in our industry; it's in the banking industry, on the financial services across the board. As an industry, we believe there should be, strong regulation, but it's the overreach part is when we really get concerned. So there's so many different areas that we're really concerned about. We want to make sure that, our industry, is regulated in a way that it's fair and for our consumers, but also not to a point where it doesn't allow us to do what we're, set out to do as an industry.
For title agents, is there anything specifically that they should be preparing for, or any sort of guidance from Alta?
Yeah, I would say we really, really appreciate our membership speaking up on all of these issues. We have, as you know, we have the Title Action Network, and anybody can sign up for that. It's very easy to do. We call TAN, and we will send out alerts when there are certain issues like that we need folks to step up and to be heard. And I should anticipate that we're going to see a lot of that this year, and not just at the federal level, but also at the state level. So if you're not already signed up, it costs nothing to be a member. You don't even have to be a member of Alta. So folks who are not can still join. If they go to our website, www.alta.org, and it's the Title Action Network, also known as TAN. And in addition to that, those who are Alta members, being engaged on both our State Legislative Affairs Council, and better known as SLRAC, as well as the GAC committee, the Government Affairs Committee. Really, our folks are super active. We keep everybody up to speed on what the big issues are and then how to activate our membership. And again, this year, particularly since the presidential year, we anticipate there's going to be a lot of new regulatory ideas and threats and other things that we should be aware of that will directly affect how we do our business. And we want to make sure, having such a successful year in 2023 that we were able to sort of push back. We're feeling a little emboldened that our voice has been heard. We want to keep the heat up and we want to keep the noise up in terms of who we are and the value that we bring.
I think it can be really easy to feel kind of insulated. Maybe if you're in a smaller area and you don't feel as connected to the rest of the industry, and kind of feel like how can I be part of it? How can I impact? But we saw that through like the waiver program that you guys, I think individual agents don't realize just how much support there is and how much they can impact the industry by being part of Alta.
Yeah, Lindsay, we can't say that enough. I think what you just said is really, really valuable. Your member of Congress wants to hear from you. We're happy to be your advocates and we will continue to do that, but you're sitting there in their backyard, right? You're employing people in their district. Their job is to represent you. So for them to really understand what it is you do and what you're doing for, their community, it's really, really important. So anything we can do to help facilitate that, and we know it can be intimidating. We know, you're busy doing your job, right, and trying to stay alive in this tough economy. But we really know that it's our voices have been heard this year, and it does make an impact, and we want to continue that.
So heading into 2024, what are some areas that Alta is focusing on? And then what do you think agents should be focusing on for the next year?
I would say the most important thing that we do is really protecting our customers and taking the title insurance industry takes the responsibility of protecting home ownership, right? It's where families build wealth, it's where we achieve our financial stability. All of those things I think is really important. And protecting our home buyers and lenders from risk is really what makes the dream of home ownership possible. So I think the most important thing we can do is making sure that our products are utilized in a way that they should be, right? We also, as we know, our industry is adapting to technology and innovation very quickly. We have so many new tools, new payment rails that, as an industry, we do our best to educate what the options are out there and how you can adapt them into your business. Many states have already adopted the remote online notarization. We are still working towards having a federal piece of legislation that will make it, consistent in all the different states. But in the meantime, we're also working to help people adapt. How do you sort of adapt that into your own business and make that a part of how you provide that service? It might not be for every one of your customers, but you want to be able to have that option for many folks. And then, of course, everybody's talking about AI, right? And how do we sort of utilize that? We had a phenomenal speaker, and for those who attended Alta One, we will have the recording available on our website, hopefully by the end of this week, because I know I'm going to listen to it again. There's so many pieces that I picked up some of it, but want to sort of go back and listen to. And how do you sort of understand it? And I think one of the most valuable pieces I took away from our speaker, and she shared it with us, was that everybody's learning this in real time. So it's sort of like the equivalent of the iPhone 13. I don't know where we are. Maybe I'm probably still back in iPhone 10, honestly. But honestly, so this is evolving, but starting to listen and pay attention and identify ways that you can, and we, as the industry representative, can help our members navigate is going to be really important. But none of us have it figured out. So it is very intimidating, but I think we all need to sort of make sure we're listening and paying attention, because it will have, just like everything, and another really valuable piece of information, no one is going to lose their job to AI, but they are going to lose their job to the people who know how to use AI. So I think we all need to sort of educate ourselves, right?
I think that's where a lot of it comes down to, is like how well you can serve the customer,
Right.
and how how efficient you can be, how effective and compliant, and those sort of
Yeah.
things. And I think it may be a pretty big piece of that.
Yeah, and I would say one thing that I've seen since I've been in this role is the title insurance industry really does step up. We are real leaders when it comes to identifying solutions and challenges, whether it's, working with, all of our industry partners on platforms that make it safe, right? Addressing a lot of the wire fraud and now this seller impersonation, all of these different things that tend to really escalate during a tough economy as well. Right? One of our speakers who was amazing, it was Elizabeth Berg, said, the fraudsters need to eat too, right? So we're seeing a lot of those types of activities heighten. And so, making sure we're educating our consumers, but also the realtors and all the other folks in the transaction to be aware of what's happening, because we get to see a lot of this in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to chat about or throw in? I think you've answered all of my questions.
Yeah, I'll just sort of continue, kind of reinforce what we spoke about early on, is how important it is to be engaged at this time. We know these are really, really tough times, and sometimes it's easy to just put your head down and hope you can get through it. But I think really stepping up and being part of the industry as a whole is really valuable to all of us right now, particularly as we face some of these biggest challenges on the regulatory front. So any way you can participate, whether it's writing a letter to your local official, donating to TIPAC. I mean, there's so many different vehicles we have, because we're going to need your support and your voice more than ever this year.
Yeah, but the first step is really to pay attention and be engaged, right? To know
Right.
where to.
Yeah, because there's a lot happening. And hopefully, we try to do our best to keep people informed. As you know, we put out the advocacy update, goes out every Tuesday morning. And then on Fridays, we send out an update on the unregulated title insurance because that's happening at such real time. We want to make sure people have as much information as they need. So, and if there's more information that we're not providing, we'd love to hear from you because we want to make sure you're getting what you need as you navigate these challenging times.
Well, I appreciate all that you guys do at Alta. We love participating and doing what we can to help support. So thank you so much, Diane.
Well, Lindsay, you guys are a great partner, and thank you for this platform and for all you do. It's really great to work with you all. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You can get even more insights by downloading the full 2023 State of the Title Industry Report at stateoftitle.com. For resources discussed in this podcast, follow the link to our show notes in the podcast description. Be sure to subscribe to Title Talks wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss next week's show. Title Talks is a production of PropLogix. We're a tech-enabled due diligence provider committed to helping title professionals get to the closing table with confidence. For information about our time-saving services, head to proplogix.com. That's PROPLOGIX.com. Until next time, happy closings.